Unfortunately, if you get the Ford starting system fault, it means you can't start your engine, and even worse, you might have to get it towed. Moreover, dealers likely won't be of much help in most cases and will have you throwing money at the wrong parts. However, the warning message in question is related to a reasonably simple system, and in the vast majority of cases, it's a pretty simple fix you can do right now. The main cause of the Ford starting system fault is a loose electrical connector near the interior fuse box. Other causes include blown fuses, a faulty key, and sometimes resetting the battery solves the issue. But before explaining each cause, which fuses you need to check, and where to find the fuse box connector, here is what the warning message means. Ford starting system fault meaning. The starting system fault message is only related to the vehicle's key code, code reader, and other related components. That means it can't be anything that's unrelated to that, like the starter motor, dead battery, shifter position, etc. What it means specifically is that you are unable to start the vehicle with a key that has the correct code. By that, we can conclude that the car recognizes the key, but it's still unable to start. However, most dealers will have you buy a new key for a couple of $100s. And even though that might work in a very small percentage of cases, chances are still high that you will waste your money. Also, the key code reader, which sits around the ignition, is entirely bulletproof, and I have never heard of a case where it fails. It also doesn't help that the starting system fault message is often intermittent and doesn't show any fault codes. Still, most people solve this issue fairly easily. And here are all the causes and fixes, starting with the most common one. Ford starting system. Fault causes and fixes. 1. Fuse box connector. After visiting several forums and seeing a dozen experiences with this problem, the most common fix seems to be a specific electrical plug on the fuse box. Here, we are talking about the fuse box inside the cabin. The problem with the connector is that the clamp securing it doesn't do a very good job, so it backs out from time to time. Also, the fuse box will likely have more than one connector on it, but the one you are after is the same for all generations. You can see what the connector looks like by scrolling through this forum, and you will see what the fuse box looks like in newer generations in the video below. But since all you have to do is push the connector back in its place, it doesn't hurt to check all of them. Here is how. Step-by-step guide. 1. In the passenger footwell, flush with the doors, is a plastic cover. 2. That cover is over the fuse box, and to remove it, you will find a notch on the side nearer to the engine. 3. Then all you have to do is pull on it, and it will open up like a door. 4. After that, check if any of the connectors on the fuse box and near the fuse box are loose, and plug them back in properly. Here is how to access the fuse box on newer F150 models. And you can also see what the connectors look like. The one you are after has a light gray locking tab, but again, it's best to check all of them. 2. Blown fuses. If the previous fix doesn't help, you might be dealing with a blown fuse. More precisely, blown relays 9, 26, and 27. Fuse number 9 is the first one to check. However, its location differs between generations. It can be in the interior fuse box or in the engine bay. But to make it easier, you are looking for the fuse designated for the PCM, TCM, and fuel pump relay. Lastly, fuses number 26 and number 27 in the engine bay fuse box could also be the problem. You can access these pretty easily, and the number 26 is 10A, while the number 27 is 5A. However, it's always best to check all the fuses if you have time, and also make sure they are all properly seated. 3. Disconnect the battery. For some people, disconnecting the battery did the trick, and although I'm not too sure why that worked because the ECU can't be reset that way on modern cars, it can still help. However, the problem could happen again, so it's not a permanent fix, but it will get you where you need to be. When disconnecting the battery, always disconnect the negative terminal and leave it for at least 10 minutes. The factory terminal clamp bolt on an F150 is 8mm or 5 by 16 inches. However, you can also use pliers or something similar. If you still get the error message afterward, the only thing left to check is the key. 4. Replace the key. If none of the above works, which I doubt it won't, the only thing left is the key. But before you buy a new one, try a spare key if you have one, because that will often work. If a spare key starts the car, you can try replacing the battery in the old one or take it to a dealer for inspection. However, if you don't have a spare key, you will have to take your car to a dealer. But before asking them for a new key, have them inspect the car first. If they don't find anything, a new key at a dealership usually costs around $280. As an alternative, you can contact your local locksmith because they usually make such keys as well. In that case, the key will set you back between $80 and $180. To summarize what we talked about in this video, the starting system fault doesn't indicate any standard faulty components, like the alternator, engine sensors, battery, etc. The starting system fault message comes from the anti-theft system or the key code reader. However, these systems almost never fail, and the main cause of this issue is a loose electrical connector near the fuse box. You can check our guide on how to solve this issue, or visit the link to see what the connector looks like. Other than that, check the fuses and relays numbered 9, 26, and 27. If that doesn't work, disconnect your battery for a couple of minutes, and the last resort is visiting a repair shop or buying a new key.